Welcome to the Belt Barber Podcast, the first and only podcast about entrepreneurship for barbers and professional of our beauty industry. And today, I have someone here, Stefan Batori. He's the co-founder of Booksy, and today he's going to be sharing a lots of information, ideas, insights, things that will be very valuable for everybody that are listening and are watching us. Stefan, I need you to introduce yourself and tell me who's Stefan. Where you coming from? Where is your background? What's your story?
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I've come a long way. I was born and raised in Poland, in one of the poorest parts of the country. Back in the days when Poland was still under communism. So I remember my parents struggling. I remember empty shelves. Like I remember how difficult it was to buy anything. And then Poland overthrew communism in 1989. I remember the transformation and the big excitement that we became a free economy. And I was lucky enough, I got on a scholarship back in 1994. So I came to the US to study here. I went to a high school in the US, then I went back to Poland, got my master's degree in applied mathematics from the Warsaw University of Technology. And I think that was my last year in college when I started my first company. It was a software development house. It was the dot-com boom when it all exploded. And I thought that, becoming a millionaire was an easy and nice thing. So wanted to become a millionaire really quickly. And it turned out to be an over 20 years journey. And I'm still, on my entrepreneurial journey, hustling and building. This is my fifth company in those 20 years, and still learning how to be a better human being, how to be a better entrepreneur, how to be a better, a better human, I guess.
Do you have family?
I do. I have a wife and two kids. A boy, he just turned 18 and will be off to college this summer, and a beautiful and smart girl, Agata, and she just turned 16.
Wow, you look young for two kids. You look very young. How old are you?
I'm 44. My son was born when I was 26. I guess some would say I started early, but
I guess a good age.
Yeah, I think that was the best age. However, maybe I would have, with the experience I have right now, maybe I would have been a better father if I had a kid now. But I'm blessed and grateful that I have those two. They are my, the biggest achievements of my life.
Oh, that's cool. I think there's no right time, right? To have kids.
A kid, yeah. It's always a blessing.
It's always a blessing. I think might be a hard time because your financial situation, and might be you have to be more involved in giving more energy and attention to that side of the family instead for your future plans. But it will be hard. But I think there's not a wrong time for that, right?
To be honest, we didn't really plan it exactly that way. That was probably the worst time from the business perspective, because I just started my first company and the dot-com boom collapsed, the bubble burst, and we went through a very difficult period, 2 years. We barely survived as a company. We should have declared bankruptcy, but there was something that kept me going on. And for those 2 years, I ate potatoes only, literally. Imagine that you cannot afford anything else. Potatoes were the cheapest thing in Poland, cheaper than rice, cheaper than pasta. So 6 days a week, we ate potatoes. And on Sundays, we went to my wife's parents and had like a proper Sunday dinner. But I still love potatoes.
Did you ever share that on video with someone?
This part of your life, have you ever shared before?
I think I've mentioned it once or twice. Sometimes people don't believe me because it wasn't a week, it wasn't a month. Literally, it was 2 years of eating potatoes. but I can cook them 100 different ways now.
So you develop the cooking side of your life.
Yeah.
So your wife must be happy with that.
And being a very creative. Like imagine having only potatoes and sometimes you have butter, sometimes you might have some spices, sometimes you don't have anything, and still you want to make, something different for dinner than you had last week and the week before and the month before. So like it definitely helped my creative side.
Wow. Let me ask you about these 5 companies. So you started with this company that didn't work out. What was this company about? What happened with it?
Actually, eventually it worked out, but the first 2 years were like really grueling and really tough. It was a software development house. We developed websites and software for companies, but back in 2000 and 2001, when you said like, hey, I'm going to make a website for you, or like I'm going to do, something with the internet, like people were like scared and running away. Like they didn't want to do anything that had the word internet in it. So we were supposed to shut down the company. We had debts, but I didn't feel it was the right thing to do, to like leave different people with debts and like, announce Chapter 11 and kind of walk away free. And I decided to work so hard that I could pay off the debts and then close the company. Wow. And when we paid off the debts, then I realized, hey, I might as well continue doing what I was doing. And for the next 7 years, we were considered one of the fastest growing companies in Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Wow.
So that
was
the
same company that you thought about filing for bankruptcy, right?
Exactly.
Wow. That's crazy. And then this was back in, you're living in Poland at that time?
Yeah, living in Poland 2000, 2001. So it was like 22 years ago.
Okay. You didn't have your kids yet?
No, my son got born in 2003, just when we were about to, turn the things around, but it still didn't feel like the right time to have kids.
Your honesty, it kind of flips, because you were very, very honest with like, oh, I'm not going to close the doors and leaving all these people with debts, right? So that honesty, I think, it just give you that little push too.
It's honorable then. You decided to do the right thing instead of, okay, I'll file for bankruptcy and then I don't have to pay anybody.
I'm free to go.
I'm free to go.
It felt like the only right thing to do. I mean, it would be lawful to file for bankruptcy, but I didn't think it would be moral to do that.
Exactly.
How old were you back then when you first started the company?
I was 22 when I started my first company.
You always feel like you are an entrepreneur?
Not really. When I was a kid, my parents thought I would be a scholar. Like I was pretty good at school. And they ran a business. As I mentioned, Poland was just overthrowing communism, and we were learning free economy and what free market meant. So my parents started like a little grocery store in the neighborhood that we lived in. And I was always like, I don't want to say careless about the money, but like I couldn't save money. Like my parents, like my brother and my sister were much better in managing their pocket money. And I always like spend it on books, spend it like on things that like intrigued me, that like I wanted to learn something about that. So I would argue with my parents that I wasn't spending it, I was investing.
Investing?
Yeah.
Wow. I always have this phrase that I will repeat once and again, that is, for all your questions, education are the answers.
Yep.
Wow, that's so cool about you. So, but you said you moved to Florida. Where you live in Florida? Your family came with you here?
Right now, I live in Miami Beach. So my family, like we had lived in California for 4 years before I moved to Florida. And my kids didn't want to move during the school year. And my son is graduating from high school. So we decided that we would like split for a while. And they just visit me in Florida. And I visit them every few weeks in California. So we kind of manage this for now.
Time.
Wait, but before he moved to Florida, there's a whole story, right? You opened the first company, you didn't file for bankruptcy, then you kept the company and you actually grew the company. Do you still have this company? Do you still own it?
So I floated the company on Warsaw Stock Exchange in 2012 after running it for 12 years. And then I stepped down of my executive role a year later. And I was already running 2 other companies at that time. So there were 2 companies that were spin-offs of my first company. The other one was also a software development house. And actually, Booksy is a spin-off of that second software development house. And then the third company was a taxi hailing app, kind of like Uber and Lyft. We just worked with licensed taxi drivers in Poland from day one, and it's called iTaxi. So that was the third one.
You mentioned that. Can you
Explain
share
about
more?
this.
Can you share
Was
more?
this before Uber existed, or was kind of around the same time?
It was around the same time. Back then, I didn't know about Uber. And I guess if I had known about Uber, I would never start the company because when we started raising money for that company, and we were just a small local player operating in Poland, and I went to local VCs and they told me like, hey, we are not going to fund you, even though the idea is great, the execution, the team that's behind the company is great, but like you are going against Uber, the best funded company in the world. Like they are going to crush you. So
Wow.
the local VCs didn't want to fund my business, and then international funds, they said like you only operate in Poland and we only support like global businesses. So I was kind of caught in the middle, not really having any
Funds.
leverage and any means to fundraise and to compete with Uber, but the company still exists today. It's profitable, and I think it's bigger than Uber in Poland. Like there are no, like Uber doesn't publish their numbers, but like from what we are seeing on the streets, I think iTaxi is the number 1 company in Poland 12 years later.
Wow.
That's so amazing.
Sorry, 10 years later.
Wow.
And because we were talking about that while I was cutting your hair before coming here, like a little earlier. You mentioned you learned something about that. They didn't want to invest, and then
So that was exactly the reason why Konrad, my co-founder and partner, and we decided to launch Booksy in the US first, because we learned the lesson from running a local company that it would be difficult to get funded. So we decided to launch Booksy in the US, and only after that we translated Booksy into Polish and launched that in Poland a few months later. Because we wanted to build a global company, and we decided to go after
Smart
the US.
move.
Yeah, because this is the most competitive market in the world, and we knew that if we were able to succeed here, then we would be able to succeed anywhere else in the world.
And how do you know Conrad, and how you guys became partners?
So I actually met Konrad when I ran my first company, and at that time Konrad had his own company, and I think our sales reps from both companies, one day they just met and they decided that there is this one project. Neither of the companies could do it separately, but like if we joined our forces on that project, then we would have a chance. There was a tender, and we actually won that tender together. And then we did that project together and a couple more projects. So that's how I met Konrad. But back then it was kind of like a distant relationship, I would say, like just 2, in a way, competitors, but joining forces and doing some projects together against other bigger competitors.
That's so interesting. You guys were competitors and now you're partners.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's a smart thing to do. We don't know everything. We need to connect with other people that just complement our vision, our expertise. And what is your role, and what is Conrad's role in the company? Because you are co-founder, he's a co-founder. What's the
So Konrad takes care of the product side, of the IT side, to simplify that, and I focus more on the business and fundraising side. So we have even though I studied applied mathematics and computer science, and Konrad is equally good at business, I guess our personalities kind of set us in those two roles that, we decided it would be best for the company and for both of us to split our roles and responsibilities that way.
And how is it going, the relationship? Do you guys like fight sometimes, or it's
I was
a
gonna
very
ask there.
good relationship?
It's a great relationship because we fight. Because I think over the years we also learned how to fight without hurting each other. But in a way, fighting is, standing up for something that we believe. We are not fighting to hurt each other. We are not fighting, to play politics or to win against each other. If we fight, then we fight for something we firmly believe in. And I find it, the best thing that could have happened to us, because it means we still both care after, so many years of working together. We are still passionate about what we do. We have differences, but also, again, I don't want to overuse the word fighting because, it's not a real fight. However, in the first couple of years, we used to
Bump
fight,
heads, bump heads.
bump heads, fought like cats and dogs. But I think, this is the best thing and the best partner I could imagine.
This is very interesting because me and my wife, we used to fight for the first 6 months when we opened the Invictus Barbershop, because we didn't understand our roles, right? And every single day we were fighting because we didn't understand our roles. And then we sat down and say, this is your role, that's my role. So we always arguing about stuff, but like you said, we are not bumping heads in trying to make the other feeling bad, not fighting, exactly. And once we sat down and set our roles, now she's my best partner. And what do you say to who are listening and watching, working as with a partner? Is it hard? What is the...
It's super hard, and let me just share a few words about my fifth business. Actually, it was my third business, looking at that from the timeline perspective, but I launched it with my wife, and it almost ended our marriage. So you are, guys, super lucky that you learned to work together. So my wife and I, we were not that lucky, and we decided to close the business so we could stay together.
That's interesting.
I think that was going to help with us if we didn't sit down. Every night, we used to bring business to our home and discussing that. And then we separated. Look, business in our personal life is different. So let whatever problem we have in the business there, and then when we get home, we look at each other like a husband and wife. So it was a challenging moment for us, right, babe?
Yeah, I would say the thing that worked for us is don't take it personal. As you said with you and your partner, Conrad, whenever I have something to say that he's doing wrong, don't take it personal. It's just the business side. Tico, I don't think you're doing this right. You should do differently. But it shouldn't affect when we get home as a couple. We can be upset with each other because he corrected me or I corrected him. And it's hard between husband and wife. I don't think it's for everybody. But when it works beautifully. And I'm glad you guys found out that it didn't work for you, which is fine. You don't have to work together if it doesn't work. Not all couples can work together. But when it works, like in our situation, it works beautifully because we are...
complement each other.
And we are partners in everything. We're partners in life, in business. We're partners as couple, husband and wife. We are sharing our whole life together, and it's wonderful.
And
I envy you.
And guess what? Cutting you. I need you to keep with that. But I'm with her for 24 hours every day, and I miss her if I'm without her for one day. I miss her.
That's beautiful.
And yes, because she compliments me, and I want her. I want to be with her all the time. Right, babe?
Yeah.
She makes me feel more stronger, more positive. She's always pushing me, and that's what makes who I am today.
I feel really in peace when he's at the shop. Let's say I'm doing something else, I'm not there. I mean, I like to be with him at all times, but it makes me feel so much peace when he's there, because I know he's taking care of everything, and I know his role, I know my role, I know what I should be doing. We don't fight about it anymore, and I just feel secure that he's there. Like having a partner makes me feel secure, because sometimes I'm stressed, I'm upset, and then he come and, hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. Tomorrow will be a better day. It's good to have a partner, and it's good that he's my husband. I can trust him 100%.
Yeah.
So it works.
It's beautiful and it's amazing. So I wish, we had, I don't know if that was more luck or maybe more wisdom. Yeah, I think it's more wisdom and kind of separate the business and personal life. Didn't work out for us. We found, a way to work around that and decided, our marriage and relationship was more important than the business.
I agree with you 100%. If the business was hurting our relationship, I would do the same. Like, Tico, this is not working. You work at the barbershop, I'll do something else, and let's be a happy couple. Because no success in business justifies having a failed marriage.
If you have something to say to encourage other couples that, like barbers and hairdressers, because I feel like you help me a lot, because you do all the, I was telling you today, all the organization behind the scenes, because I'm constantly cutting hair, take care of my team, taking care of the shop, creating content, methodology to teach, and she's taking care of the other side of the business. So what you would say to encourage other couples to work together?
As we're speaking, it's not for every couple. Not all couples can work together. And if it's going to destroy your marriage, don't work together. Hire someone else, hire a secretary, hire a manager, whatever. But I see that I have a few examples in our industry. I can talk about our industry of barbers that have their wives helping in the business. And I see they're really successful working as a couple, and I see that they are different than other shops where we have someone by himself, like a barber, and doing the whole role with the finances and organizing and cleaning and hiring and training. I see couples work well together. It's not for all couples.
Yeah, standing out.
So let's go back to Stefan.
To Stefan, I'm sorry,
We're
Stefan.
talking
That's like an interesting part. I just wanted to comment on one thing. Like in general, I believe it's worth to have a partner in business, whether it's your spouse or a friend, like somebody whom you trust. Like it's better to have somebody not being alone, because like when you are alone, like you got nobody to confide with, you got nobody to, work through your problems with, because like when you come back home, you don't want to burden your family with your work problems. When you have investors, like sometimes you cannot show them weakness. When you have employees, you cannot show them your weakness. So like if you're just a sole founder, then it's very demanding. And I would recommend people to find partners, and whether, it's their spouses or friends, or maybe like coworkers, when two barbers decide on launching a barbershop together. As Ligia said, like it's difficult to take care of everything. Hiring, training people, cleaning, supplies, marketing, and like, and being good at the craft and at what you do. So splitting that among like 2 or 3 people, I think it's just much easier, and it's higher chances of being successful than being alone.
Yeah, I agree with that. You moved to Florida. What is your favorite sport? You are showing me now there. What do you like? I don't know the name. How you call that?
It's called foiling. It's short from hydrofoiling. So basically, it's like a surfboard with a wing attached underneath, and the wing, it's like aeroplane's wing, and it just lifts you above the water. So you literally hover above the water, like 3 feet above the water.
Is the thing that looks like it's flying?
Yeah, exactly.
But you have to have to be stability, like a balance, right? There's nothing holding you.
Nothing holding you. I would say it's
Like
kind of like riding a bike. You still need that stability to ride a bike, because it's got only 2 wheels, not 4. So I would say difficulty level is probably similar.
Oh, but there's no wheels.
There's no wheels, but it's not that much different and not that difficult. Like I think it's the easiest of all the board sports, like much easier than skateboarding or snowboarding or windsurfing or kiteboarding. I've tried a couple of those recently, and I think like e-foiling is the easiest one.
Is the surfing board attached to some motor, right?
Yeah, it has an electric motor, so that's why it's called e-foil, because there are different kind of foils powered by wind, or like you can use a jet ski or a motorboat like to pull you, but like e-foil, it's like a kind of like jet skis that you don't need anybody pulling you. You don't need a sail. You are on your own, and there is an electric motor and the battery, and this is what powers the board.
You invited me, so
yes,
I promise I'll go.
You are both invited.
I want to try.
I want to try too.
I have a question for you. So, you partner with Conrad, which was your competitor, and you guys became partners founding Booksy. But why did you decide to invest in a booking software for barbershops and hair salons?
But before you start, also explain why that came to your mind. Why did you start booking software for barbers and salons?
That's a great question. So, about 10 years ago, I think, maybe 11, like I was a much bigger guy, and I wanted to lose weight, and I love to eat. Like I just shared with you that the other night I went to a Brazilian steakhouse, churrascaria, and it was all you can eat, and I love that kind of places. So, and food is my only vice. I don't do drugs, like I don't drink alcohol, like I don't smoke, and I guess I eat too much.
I love to eat also.
So I wanted to lose some weight, and a friend of mine who was a vivid runner, when he saw me in a line to a salad bar, and I hated eating salads, he said, like, why are you torturing yourself with that green stuff? Like, you always like pizza and Chinese and
potatoes
and Thai and like meat. And I said, like, hey, Gavo, I need to lose weight. And then he said, like, why don't you start running? And I said, like, no, it's not for me. Like, I think it's boring, like, it's grueling, like, I don't really enjoy that. And he said, like, why don't you give it a try for a few weeks? If you don't like it, then you can go back to the salad bar. But, like, I guarantee if you start running, you are going to be able to eat whatever you want. And at first, I hated it. But after a few weeks, I think I kind of less hated it. And then couple more months, and I still didn't like it, but didn't hate it anymore. And then I signed up for my first 5K race. And when I crossed the finish line, I think I had so much adrenaline and so much crowd energy in me. And I discovered the beauty of running. And then I signed up for my 10K race and then a half marathon. And then Gavo saw me making progress, and he came to me and he said, let's do Marathon des Sables. And I didn't know what it meant other than the word marathon. So I said, yeah, let's sign up. And I said that publicly. And then Gavo sent me a link to sign up for that race. And I found out that was the toughest foot race on earth, 6 back-to-back marathons across the Sahara Desert in self-sufficiency formula. So what it meant is that I had to carry a backpack with all the food and supplies, everything I needed to survive a week in the desert. So I signed up for that.
Wow.
And then I started training really hard and ramping up my mileage, and I started having aches and pains in my legs, and I had to see my physiotherapist. And I knew a great guy, but whenever I called him, he was busy giving somebody a massage. And when he called me back, I was in a meeting with my phone on mute, so I didn't answer. And sometimes we went back and forth for a few days, and I had the need. I wanted to resume my workouts, and I couldn't because of the pain I had in my legs. He had availability, and he wanted to make money, but I didn't know about his availability. And sometimes, like, he texted me, like, hey, you can come. Like, when I tried to call him in the morning around like 11 or maybe noon, he texted me, like, you can come at 2 or at 4. But I had a meeting at 2. So at 3, I set out and I texted him like, I'm coming at 4. And then like, I literally arrived to his place and he was like, sorry, but somebody else slid in before you confirmed. And I even didn't see your text message. So I started looking for software that would work for him and for me, and couldn't really find anything that would be easy enough for him to manage his business. And he was an independent guy without a receptionist. And at some point, Conrad and I, we decided, let's build that for him. And then we started analyzing, what are other verticals. And then we realized that it basically applies to anybody who works with their hands, like whether they give somebody a massage or they cut hair, they color it, they do makeup, brows, lashes, you name it. Everybody who works in beauty and wellness and works with their hands, they are not supposed or they cannot take phone calls while working with their clients. And that's when we realized that this is a huge business opportunity. So my very own personal problem actually became an inspiration for us to start Booksy.
Wow, that vision, it makes me stumped. Wow.
What about the name, Booksy? How did you come up with the name?
I don't have an exact answer. Like, we looped in a few friends and we had a list of about 100 different names, and we kind of started eliminating them. Some of the names that we didn't like, some of the names that we liked, but the domains were already not available. And then we just, eliminated, and I guess we ended up with Booksy, but I don't remember like exact moment when it happened.
It's a strong name. I think it's catchy, like Booksy.
I like to.
It's really catchy.
Very catchy.
It's a good name.
And easy to memorize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That too. However, it has one disadvantage. Like, some people who are not familiar with what we do, they think it's related with books.
With book.
So hopefully, when we grow bigger and have more brand awareness, like, it's not going to be an issue anymore. Like, once people know what Booksy is about, then it's not a problem. But like, for people who have not heard of our name before, sometimes it's misleading.
You know what I feel like? Leo Wall, he's the inventor of the clipper to cut hair for the barbers. I think he helped so much the barber industry, like inventing something. And I feel like the same with you. You invented that now you're almost number 1 in the world, right?
We are actually number 1
you
in
are?
the world. Yeah, yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
Don't take my word for granted. So anybody who's listening our podcast, you need to go to the App Store on your phone. And when you go to the App Store, there is a section called Top Free Apps. When you tap on that, you would see all the apps, and obviously Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat and Netflix are the top apps. But like, when you narrow it down by lifestyle, this is the category where Booksy and all of our competitors are ranked. You will see that Booksy is like way ahead of any of the competitors here in the US, but also in the UK, in Spain, in France, in Brazil, Poland, Mexico, and South Africa. So these are the core markets where we operate today.
Over 20 million users, you mean?
Yeah, we have over 20 million users worldwide, with roughly half of them here in the US and then the other half in those international markets.
Do you imagine yourself before like that big?
No, it's like, I can say it's a dream come true. However, I didn't even have that dream.
Wow.
It's kind of dream in the making, I would say.
You had a strategy to boost you guys yourself? Like,
at the beginning, we didn't. Like, we just felt that it's a great idea. We didn't know how big it could get. However, we had a strong conviction that the industry needs a tool like that, because we had spoken with a number of barbers and stylists and salon owners and physio and massage therapists, and like, we saw the need. So the first couple of years, it was the phase that's called in the startup world product market fit. So we were more focusing on establishing the product market fit. And only after that, we started thinking, okay, how do we scale it up now? And then even in the first couple of years when we were scaling up, like, we had no idea how big it could become. Like, we knew that we were onto something, but we didn't realize, how big it could grow. And today we are over 1,100 people in all of those markets. And I think this is just the beginning. I think, it's like
I think also.
the first mile of a 26-mile marathon. I think, we've been doing Booksy for 8 years now, and it still feels like the very beginning of a journey.
That's a short amount of time to be like how big. For me, it's a short because there's a lot of work behind the scenes and patience and investment in time and money. Wow.
I have a question for you. So you were the first one to create a booking software or no?
We were not. Again, kind of like with iTaxi and Uber, if I had known that Uber existed back then, probably I would have not started iTaxi. And the same is true about Booksy. There were a few competitors, we call them legacy software, that like created those booking platforms or salon management platforms a few years before Booksy started. But I think they all were more focused on running a salon or a barber shop, more on like control and inventory management than booking experience. So I think it's fair to say that we were the first one like really obsessed and focused on the booking part of the business. Of course, salon management, inventory management, POS, like that all followed, but like the wedge for us was the booking piece.
Did you find it difficult when you started? This was new. Booking software was not popular as it is now. How the barbers and hair salons would receive this option to have a booking software? Were they reluctant? Were they like, oh, this is nice, I want to try it? How was putting in the market officially and having clients subscribing to your services?
It was very difficult at first because a lot of barbering especially, but also some other verticals, were predominantly walk-in only businesses. So a lot of these barbers, they said like, no, like we serve we serve for the local communities. Like people just want to come and hang around, and like we don't want to change the way how we operate. And a lot of businesses, they also said like, I need more time with my clients. I need like to have that personal touch with them. So a lot of them, I think they had that misconception that like if clients don't speak with them while booking, then they would lose that personal touch with their clients, forgetting that they were actually losing that personal touch by answering phone calls while, cutting hair. That it was like, take one part out of the equation, but you forget about the other part of that equation. So
true.
At first we had to spend a lot of time on education.
You guys broke standards, so that's why people start understanding. So I noticed, I've been in the industry since 2002, right? I always noticed, I knew that the hairdresser, the salons owners, they were using a POS already, like a booking system, a software that could help hairdressers. But our industry of barbering, we were so much far behind. And after 2020, after the COVID hits, I noticed there was a lot of barbers into it, like using more. So what happened?
So COVID has definitely accelerated the trend. I think with like, especially the first few months of COVID, and I don't want to say post-COVID because like it's not going to go away. It's still with us. But like the first lockdown and then the first openings after the lockdown, a lot of people were more on the cautious side. Like they wanted to make sure that their clients don't queue in the shop anymore, that they can space them out, that they can manage them more efficiently, that when they get sick and they need to close the shop, that they can communicate with their clients. Or maybe their shop got closed because it was like too slow and they had to move to a different one. So like they just realized that Booksy is a great tool for them to actually stay in touch with their clients, to communicate with them, to send them messages like newsletters, to inform them on what's going on. And also I think people started like a lot of clients, they moved from offices to home offices, and like people commuted less. So I think everybody started being more picky about their schedule and about their time. Like they didn't want to drive just to find out that, you know, the barbershop is busy and they are going to wait for 2 hours. I think people, because they started working from home, they started appreciating spending time at home with their loved ones. And I think that put pressure on businesses to adapt to that situation.
And as a barber, myself, I have something to share that I used to use pen and paper, right? And I was so against using technology. That was my mindset back then before I opened the barbershop.
I think it's because you were afraid of the unknown. It was new to you. You're not a really techie guy, so you were afraid you couldn't use it. It was too complicated.
And guess what? When my wife trying to introduce me to this new technology thing, I was total lost. I say no. I was very against it. I was resisting the new thing, and she says no. Yeah, we should do. That's how it's going to help us. Help us with also
managing everything, inventory, no shows, reminders. He was against 100% in the first weeks.
And that helped us a lot because now I notice that barbers open their minds more for this, and this actually helped so much. And what do you have to say for somebody that are not using a booking system yet?
So let me give you just one example, like the physiotherapist that I mentioned, like that he inspired me to create Booksy. We actually created Booksy, launched it in the US, and a few months later we translated it to Polish. So I went straight to him and I said, Michael, like we created the tool for you. It's going to be a great fit for you. And I think it took me 3, maybe 4 months to convince him to start using it. He was always like coming up with an excuse like, oh, not this week because I'm going on holidays next week. Or like, not this week because like the next couple of weeks are going to be super busy and I don't want to disrupt my operations because it's like high season for me. Not this week because of this. And he always had excuses. And like, I remember one day I was like laying on his massage bed or table, whatever it's called. And like, he was working on my Achilles and I'm like, how about we do it tonight? And he's like, no, I'm working till 9 p.m. I'll be tired. I don't want to do that. And I said, like, why don't you give me access to your Facebook, your Instagram, and your website, and I'm going to do it for you. You just need to do one thing. Like, you just need to put all the appointments you have in your paper calendar into Booksy. So when we launch it tomorrow morning, like, you don't get double booked. Are you cool with that? And he said, okay, I can do that. So in the morning, I woke up, I connected it to his Instagram and website, but he didn't tell me that he did not put all the bookings from his paper calendar. So a week later, I visited him and I asked him, so how do you find Booksy now? And he said, like, the first 2 or 3 days, it was a disaster. Like, I had clients that were upset with me because I double booked them. I had conflicts and double bookings, and it was just a disaster. Like, I literally wanted to kill you. But he said the 3rd or the 4th day, the phone just stopped ringing. And he said, I had never had such quiet and peaceful time in my professional life as it started on that 4th day. Fast forward 5 years later, and he went from being an independent solo practitioner to hiring 25 people working for him now. Like, Booksy enabled all that growth for him.
Wow.
Wow, that time that he was expanding in like booking people, taking calls, now he's using to evolve, to creating strategy to grow.
Actually, what happened is that
gave him time.
Until he was an independent solo practitioner, like, he was never fully booked because he always like had time filling in his calendar because he was not able to take all the calls. The second he started using Booksy, it turned out that his calendar was literally full. So 2 months later, he hired somebody, and it took him a few months, to grow his clientele, and then they both were fully booked, and then he hired another person and another one, and then he finally hired a receptionist. But her job is actually not to book people, but it's to take care of the people that come in, like welcome them, greet them, like make sure they feel comfortable. So like it kind of changed the way he had thought about receptionists before. And like he didn't hire one when he was a solo practitioner because he simply couldn't afford it. So Booksy unlocked that potential that he already had. He was a good guy. He had more clients that he could have served, but he didn't realize it because he was never fully booked.
Wow.
The same thing happened to us, to our business, having a booking software. As we grew from a team of like 3 barbers to 5 to 7 to 8, it's impossible to take all those calls. And I do rather have a receptionist, but it's so many calls that it's impossible. The amount of people we see every day is so many people that we can't take those calls. I would have to have 3 receptionists just to answer the phone. And a lot of clients were resistant because we started using the booking software in 2017. It was not so popular as it is now. People didn't accept as they do now. So we had a lot of clients still calling. And it was, as you said, the process of educating them, how to use it, how convenient it is. Because if the shop is closed, if it's midnight, if it's 6 a.m., you just go online and you see your barber's availability and it's convenient. And I still have people calling. Some are still resistant to use technology, or whenever they face a problem booking, which happens sometimes, they call and ask for help or to change the appointment. But it increased our productivity and it made the business workflow much more efficient.
Yeah. The people was very resistant, but now if the software doesn't work, the internet like goes down, they kind of complain, oh, it's not working, I have to call. And now they complain because it's more convenient, you know.
And most people forget that as difficult as it is to schedule appointments with somebody who works with their hands, equally difficult is to reschedule it. And like, you know, professionals, they never like no-shows or last-minute cancellations. But like if you don't make it easy both to book and cancel and reschedule those appointments, like you are going to end up having no-shows and last-minute cancellations because like somebody, you know, something pops up at 10 p.m., right? Let's say you have a kid and then you cannot, like your wife cannot make it to PTA conference and then you have to go, but you had an appointment with your barber, right? So like at 10 p.m. you cannot cancel it, you cannot reschedule it. The next day you want to call, but you forget, or maybe you try to call them during the day, but they are not answering the phone. And then like you end up being a no-show and that barbershop loses money. And it's not that the client had bad intentions, like you just like
life happens.
Life happens, and they made an effort to call you, to contact you, to reschedule, but you just didn't make it easy enough for them to do that. And it's like your fault as a business owner that you have a no-show. So lot of people don't even realize how important it is not only for scheduling, but like rescheduling. Because if somebody wants to get a haircut with you, if they cannot make it, that doesn't mean that they want to
hurt you.
It doesn't mean that, you know, they are not coming back. Like you just need to make it easier for them to reschedule.
To communicate.
And what we've also noticed is that like when people are no-show or last-minute cancellation, they feel guilty. And then they might not come back, not because they didn't like your service, but because it's difficult for them to face you and admit like that they were a no-show. They know they hurt your business, even though they did it involuntarily. They are kind of, they feel bad, and then they find a new barber.
We had a lot of problem with no-shows before, right, babe? We used to have like per barber, like 3, 4, 5 no-shows a day. So that was making a huge hit in our business. And then we kind of, how do you say the word?
We started asking for them to have a card on file for no-shows.
For no-shows.
And we created a policy that they, in our situation, they have to let us know 3 hours in advance. They can go to the booking software and cancel or reschedule. Or if they are resistant, they can call and read those 80-90% of the no-shows.
And the idea is not to charge them. The idea is to make sure that, because as a barber, we cut one hair, we're making money out of that hair, right?
You're in business of selling time.
Selling time.
Yeah.
You know, if I do the haircut, I'll make money. If I'm not, I don't eat.
Yeah.
You know, I don't pay my bills. So that minimizes a lot our
No-show problems.
No-show problems.
As you said, like the goal is not to make money on them being no-shows, but like to make them accountable. Because like if people get something for free, they don't perceive the value of it. So they don't perceive the value of your time because they think like, oh, I didn't get my haircut, so why would I pay, right? Well, they need to pay because they booked your time. It doesn't matter that they didn't use the time. Yep. They still booked it, right?
Doctors,
it's like with hotels or airlines. Like
and doctors, they have been doing this for years. Why beauty professionals can't? Their time is valuable. And if you cancel 5 minutes before your appointment, there is no way that person can put another client in. So it's disrespectful with the professional, right? And other industries have been doing this for so long.
For a while.
Why barbers can't?
But that's the thing. We have this culture that barbers are there for you all the time. We in implementing software like this is educating your client little by little that this will be more convenient for them and it's not going to hurt your business, you know. Actually, it's helping them with the time too. Now they set the time for a haircut and they know where they have to be in 1 hour from now on after my haircut. After the next appointment, they have somewhere else, like a meeting or picking up a kid from school, anything like that. But going back to 2020, for me, COVID hit as a crisis. You know, everybody was home, lost their jobs, you know. And I would like to say that I'm going to explain why I'm saying this. Crisis is like the money change from hand to hand. It's like when you play cards, right? Every time you're playing cards, the cards are divided again over and over. And that is giving people there or in the bottom, giving these people that are in the bottom opportunity to go up. So what I meant about that, I'm going to give you two explanations what I'm trying to say. In 2008, we have the crisis, the real estate crisis. And there was a lot of people that had some saved money and the house was like very cheap and they invested. And then here comes the opportunity with the COVID. I took advantage of booking softwares, and I'm taking advantage also of the digital world, the digital era. So what you say about barbers taking advantage of this moment that is we see as a challenge moment and how to use the digital time in our favor.
So what we've been seeing for years, and COVID just, I think, accelerated the trend, is that more and more people are going into that business, and it's just easier for them to build their clientele. It's easier for them to build a business around that. Because like a lot of barbers, they first start as independent barbers, renting chairs or maybe suites. But a lot of them have ambition to grow their business, to grow their career. In fact, the T-shirt I'm wearing, self-made.
Self-made.
It's for our barbers and professionals and stylists who are like self-made. A lot of them started cutting friends and family and friends, in their garage or maybe kitchen or somewhere, in the backyard. Then, with the money they made, they put themselves through a barbering school or a cosmetology school, and then they started working officially. So today, when you look at apps like Booksy, like we are putting a very powerful tool that fits their pocket. Like they get a very powerful tool to manage their calendar, to manage their bookings, to manage their digital assets, to publish on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, to interact with their clients. Like we are giving them a powerful, in the enterprise world, they call it a CRM system, customer relationship management. So 10, 20 years ago, it was only big corporate offices that could afford tools like that. Today, for $1 a day, like barbers who want to be professional, who want to grow their career, who want to grow their business, they can access all these amazing tools.
Anyone can access that.
Anyone can access that and make a use of it. So we are seeing more and more people like coming to the industry and trying it out, because before COVID and before the era of digital tools, like it took years for people to build their clientele. Like barbers would hand out flyers, or maybe they would buy ads in local newspapers, but like those days are gone. And like we are seeing a lot of young people coming to the industry, to the beauty industry, and just, exploiting those digital tools and doing that in a really, really smart way, and then growing their business, taking it kind of like Michael, my physiotherapist, like starting being independent, solo practitioner, and then growing a business around it.
20 years ago, I didn't have that opportunity. And now I understand more of the digital era that I could use in my favor. And now with all this, you can use more in your favor constantly. And now we should understand that more, that I got lost in here. Sorry.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that 20 years ago, I didn't have that opportunity. And now I'm more resilient to understand what is good for my business. Even if I'm individual barber, work from my garage, rent a chair, and I'm understand more and be more resilient to make kind of embrace that and use that in my favor.
Before you had to pass business cards, meet people, and then you had to text or call. And now you have a booking software that does all that for you. And you have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You have social platforms where you can be seen by more people than if you go one by one passing cards. Hey, I'm Tico. Tico used to do that.
I used to
Everybody used to do that, like 10,
He did
20
a lot.
years ago, exactly. It was
I
just
fill
like
up my pocket with cards, and everybody that I see, even a stranger in the street, I used to give my card, my business card,
Yeah.
Anywhere I go, because we all are involved with communities, gyms, and we have our church. You have friends, families. Hand out a card, So I had to do in that different time, but now it's easier with those book software. Right.
And with tools like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Snapchat, because a lot of people are looking for a new barber or a new stylist on those platforms.
Go ahead.
Do you remember the first client you had for Booksy? The first client?
I do. So her name is Gina. She's a barber out of LA. And she's still with us using Booksy.
Wow.
And she was like the first one actually using Booksy the proper way, because before that we maybe had a couple hundred people who downloaded the app, but they never made a use out of it. Like they downloaded it, they played with it, but kind of didn't understand what it was about, or maybe felt like their clients wouldn't use it. And back then, like Conrad and I, like we had ups and downs, and it was like one of the downs. We were like, well, maybe that was a stupid idea. Maybe nobody wants to use it. And then one day, like Gina contacted us, and she said that like she would love to use Booksy. She had I don't remember her question, but like she had one question, we answered it, and the next day we woke up and she had like 20 appointments, like 20 people booked her overnight. And we were like, yes, it's working. So it was like so exciting to see somebody really using it. And then for the next few days, we saw her clients booking with her literally 15 to 20 appointments per day. So after a week, like we were celebrating that, like, it's working. Like this is the first client. These are the first, a few dozen bookings, but like it was probably one of the best moments in my professional life when we realized that
working.
It's working. It didn't go to waste, because like we spent almost a year building the software.
Wow.
We did it, in between different projects. Like we financed it ourselves. So like it wasn't like super fast development, but after a year, it was very rewarding to see that somebody is using it.
Did you have investors to raise the money, or no? Booksy was funded by you and Conrad.
So we bootstrapped it. So at the beginning, we funded it out of our software development house. Just, we had a couple dozen developers, and whenever, they had a free time between projects, like we had them working on Booksy. But in July 2015, we raised our first round, $750,000, to help us scale and take it to the next level. And ever since then, like we've been growing using the investors' money. So
how does it work, this world of having investors? Do they have shares in the company? How this works?
They have shares in the company. Like they don't interfere with day-to-day operations. They invest into the company not to be like operating partners, not to
Make decisions?
not like they make like super high level and strategic decisions. So we have a couple of them sitting on our board of directors, and like we discuss with them, you know, the strategy for the company, how we want to allocate the money, like what markets we want to go after. So like super high level strategic decisions. But like day-to-day operations, it's Conrad and myself and the team that we have built. The executive team runs Booksy, and the investors, they basically invested into Booksy hoping that like one day they can exit it. Like once we IPO the company, once we go public, they will be able to sell their shares and make money off of it.
Can I invest in Booksy?
Of course.
What is the minimum investment? $10? No, just kidding.
Let's take it offline. And
Take it
like
offline.
one of my dreams is also to make it accessible for the industry, for the barbers that are using us, because like I want them to be part of the success. Like I want them to feel that like, you know, typically like when companies sell software or goods to somebody, then, you know, there is a transfer of profits and wealth, you know, just one way. And I want to like complete the loop, complete the cycle. And I want the industry to benefit from it, not only the way it's benefiting right now, but also like maybe start a new trend.
I like that idea. I have a question for you, but I forgot the question.
Yeah, let me ask mine. So I noticed that Booksy are very deeply involved in our industry, participating, trying to understand the industry. You guys are all over, barber battles, workshops, and all that stuff. So what do you have to say about that? You guys very involved.
We are doing that for a few different reasons. Like we want to stay connected, stay relevant. That's always the best way to collect feedback, like to meet with people face to face. Like every now and then we have somebody reaching out to us like, hey guys, you know, there is a bug, or maybe that feature, like if it worked differently, it would be better. But like when we get quality FaceTime with people, those face-to-face interactions, I think it's just like 10 times easier to get feedback. It's also, you know, so we like, that's how we get ideas from our existing users. That's also how we educate the industry. And we also want to learn how we can take Booksy to the next level, because when we started 8 years ago, it was only a scheduling platform. Today, it's a fully featured salon management suite. So it does everything: inventory management, POS, CRM, business analytics and reports. But we are already working on the next steps. Like we wanna do more, and we are just, you know, meeting with people to get inspired. And one more reason we are doing that is, you know, sometimes like little details can be transformational. Like sometimes the features or the things that we develop, like they literally change people's lives. So I just love meeting with people working in the industry, because they are so passionate. Like most people who work in that industry, they do it because they love making people feel good about themselves. They love making people feel handsome or pretty and beautiful. But also a lot of people who work in that space, they are single parents. They are maybe not that well educated, and sometimes they don't understand how they could change lives for themselves and their families. Like we've had so many examples of people like working 2 shifts, because like I met a single mother. She worked as a stylist, and then she had to work a night shift to put her kids through school. And when she started using Booksy, she was fully booked, and then the money she made from her day job was enough for her, so she didn't have to do the night shift anymore. And then she got to spend more time with her kids. I got a call from a husband thanking me for creating Booksy because his marriage was falling apart. Like, his wife was constantly on standby carrying her phone with her, and they couldn't go to movies, they couldn't go for dinner because she was always like anticipating that somebody would call her, and she needed to take those phone calls because, as you know, if you don't book people, then the next day you're not making money. So like, she had that anxiety and fear of missing out if she went out with him that night. I had somebody who emailed me saying that thanks to Booksy, he can now lead a healthier lifestyle, because before Booksy, technically he had a lunch break, but he never actually ate his lunch because he had to return all the phone calls.
That's our life.
Text messages. And his first and only meal was like double dinner, and then he laid on the sofa because he was not able to move. He was like stuffed, and because of that, like, he was not that fit anymore. So like, we even had a guy who's like, he rented a chair in a barber shop, and like, he just had a baby, he just leased a car for his wife, he just got a mortgage on his house, and then the barber shop went on fire. And out of all the barbers that worked at that barber shop, like, he was the only one using Booksy. So all the other barbers, even when they found a new barber shop, like, their clients didn't know that where they have moved to, and he was the only one with Booksy. So he just blasted all of his clients saying like, hey guys, my barbershop went on fire, and as of today I'm working here, and he gave them the address. So literally every single client the next day visited him at this new barbershop, and he was able to pay the bills, pay his mortgage, pay for the leasing of the car for his wife, so she could take their babies to see doctors, to buy food and diapers and everything. So like, I just love interacting with people and like seeing and hearing how much we impact their lives, and we help them, we take the hustle out of their business and daily life, and we help them to spend time with their loved ones.
That's what catch my attention. That what makes me be more closer to you. That's what connect me more with you, because I don't remember there's anybody that you are in your position as a CEO or the co-founder, like visiting and feeling and understanding our industry, understand our ways to do things, because most of softwares, they don't understand what's really happening day by day. And you are there. When you visit us for the first time, I told Lydia, I was impressed. Like the owner of Booksy, he is trying to understand our business, the barbery industry. That was amazing. That's what connecting me more with you and admire you more for that, because there's not a lot of owners that are doing that.
I feel like they don't hear us because I use different booking softwares, and I try to contact them and say, hey, listen, this feature is not really working. Let me tell you, maybe you guys should work on this feature. They don't want to listen, and there is no one for you to talk to, and the customer service sometimes is terrible. So when you visited us to see, okay, how Booksy could work for you, and you show me the features and everything, this is something like so different than what we're used to. We're not just a number. You really want to understand what's going on in my operations so you can improve your company, your software. It's amazing.
Tell me if I'm wrong. I think you are the only one I see in my whole life doing that.
In your industry.
In our industry.
And I think
your industry.
Yeah, I think I know why. And it's not only like industry specific, but it's also it's something bigger. So like, Konrad and I are like two guys that were born and raised in Poland, and I think we have so much respect for and self-awareness that there is so much that we don't understand and we don't know how things work. And there are a lot of other either competitors in this space, or like in a much broader sense, like people like running their companies from behind their desk because they think they know everything. So I've seen, software created, by guys who claim like, oh, it's like barbers for barbers, and they think they know everything because they were barbers. But I think they are not realizing that, their business experience as a barber is unique, and it doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. That every barbershop, every business is a little bit different. And that's like what Conrad and we love to spend time with you and like understand your business. And like Booksy is not ready for your business yet, so we are not pushing you to use it just yet, but hopefully one day
Soon,
like will be ready for your business. And I think the same applies. And I kind of find it a little bit troubling because like when I moved to the US, like I didn't know so much about the country, about its diversity, about like its complicated history, about, unserved communities in this country. And like we didn't really plan it. It wasn't by design, but in the past 3 years, Booksy was recognized as one of the top, I think, either 25 or 50 companies in the US to work for women and for people of color. And like we are two white guys from Europe that came to the US, and like I had no idea, how to create one of the best companies for people of color. We don't really have people of color in Poland. But because we are eager to learn and listen to people and understand, so I think, this is not unique to this industry and understanding barbers, but like Conrad and we just realize how little we know, and like we are just eager to learn and grow.
going out there and
Exactly.
I think it's because you understand people, regardless of color, race, age, nationality. You were trying to understand people. Okay, what this person needs. Instead of trying to put one formula that fits all, you're looking at the diversity. Let me see how I can help this business owner, this barber that rents a chair, this barber that works by commission. Let me see their reality and see.
someone that work from the garage.
Yeah, someone that works from the garage. And one thing I noticed in the beginning of the conversation, when you had the option to declare bankruptcy and don't pay anybody, you did the right thing, what was ethical and moral. And I think the way you can do Booksy is the same way. What is ethical and moral to do, and you follow your heart. And a lot of people don't do that because they care about money, they care about status, they care about whatever. And I don't see this in you. I see you care about people. What's the impact that is not just a software, as you're telling all these beautiful stories, people that had their life changed because of a tool that you created. It's way more than just a software. It's way more than just a appointment booking software. It goes deeper, right?
We could have made money in so many different ways. Like we could have continued, our software businesses that Conrad and I ran together before. But like, that's why we are so passionate about Booksy and about that industry, because for the very first time in our lives, like we feel that we are making something meaningful, something that's really, truly changing people's lives. So for us, it's like way more than about making money. We could probably, sell Booksy and not worry about our lives anymore. But we want to build something bigger. Like we want to make a deeper impact on the industry. And we still, as I mentioned at the beginning, we both feel that this is just a very beginning of a marathon. Like that we literally just tied our shoes and walked out the door. And we are just warming up. Like there is still so much we can do to help to educate people, help them. Like I mentioned underserved communities. So the other day I spoke with African-American barbershop owner. Actually, she runs a barbershop for her husband. So that's another couple. Maybe I should meet you guys.
Our
because
couple,
For
yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Connect us.
I would love to meet them.
Yeah, there are not that many couples that I know, but like, so, and she told me that like her parents didn't teach her about credit score, about like forming a business, like how important it is to have an LLC instead of like running your business without legal protection. how to invest money, how to save money. So there are like many more things that we can do beyond booking, educating the industry, educating people working in that space, and helping them now to turn the money they are making, because like we help them to fill in their calendar and to make more money. But a lot of these barbers and stylists, like, another story I want to share. And that was that was a female barber I met at one of the conferences. And she said, like, Stefan, you have no idea how grateful I am for you guys to doing in-app payments. Because before Booksy, like, I used to take cash and I was never able to save money. Like, I made money, I put it in my pocket, and then I went like grocery shopping and I spent all of it. Today, because my money goes into my bank account, like once a week, I withdraw as much as I need for like...
It's more manageable. You can
Exactly,
manage.
it's more manageable. And she
You can
said,
track.
like, for the first time in my life, I'm actually able to track my money and to save. And like she said, it's incredible. And I had no idea that such little things actually like shape people's life and like help them to turn around.
I think it's so smart, this approach that going to place, because from people, you get the best answers, the best ideas, insights from people. In our shop, the best ideas or things that are solve some problems that are happening in my shop is coming from my clients and our team. So that is a great idea.
I want to ask you something. So when you have booking software like you guys do, where is the money? Do you make money on subscriptions? I see some other competitors that I know that they make money on the on processing card transactions because they get a percentage. So where is the money? Is it on the subscription? Is it on the card transactions? How does it work?
It's actually on both. It's on subscriptions, and we just started shipping our own card readers. So the payment processing is still a super small part of our revenue and business. Subscriptions is our bread and butter, but we are hoping that long term we'll also be making money on processing payments. It's like with payment processing, margins are razor thin, and it's a super difficult business because you have to manage risk, and there is a lot of fraud. Like, we've seen fake accounts, like people set up accounts with us to process stolen credit card numbers, and then they set up a dozen of fake accounts. They pretend to be barbershops and salons, and they use stolen credit card details from the internet. Then they withdraw the money, and we never...
Wow, I never heard about that.
Yeah, this is happening. So like there is a lot of like fraud management and risk management on processing payments, but hopefully at scale this is also something that's gonna be a meaningful revenue stream for us. But today it's mostly subscriptions.
And what is the percentage in your client base of hair salons and barbershops? I suppose you have more hair salons, or no?
That depends on the market. Here in the US, I think we still have a little bit more barbershops than hair salons because we started with barbershops first. So historically, we kind of got the momentum in this space. But we are growing now hair salons and nail salons and day spas and like other beauty and wellness businesses equally fast as barbershops. But like outside of the US, I think it's like well balanced in countries like Spain or like France or like Poland. Like we have, I would say, pretty good share in every category. So we are like, that depends on the breakdown in a country, because like different countries might have slightly different cultures, and in some cultures barbering is more pronounced. In some cultures there is more unisex hair salons, but I think we have outside of the US the share is pretty much equal to what the share is within that given country.
What is the difference, what's the difference you see in salons and barbershops using the app? Meaning that the average ticket for barbers Is much lower
It's
than a
definitely
salon.
lower.
So what's the differences you see? What can you say it?
I think surprisingly turnover is pretty much the same unless they start doing coloring. But like when you look at like haircutting, so in barber shops, like usually barbers have, I don't know, 10, 12, maybe 15 clients a day. So the services are much shorter and much cheaper. And then with like hairstyling and like, other services that are mostly for women, like the services are maybe longer and more expensive, but at the end of the day, they make pretty much
almost the same.
almost the same. The difference kicks in when they start doing coloring. Like this is, I think, a gold mine for some of those hair salons. And we are seeing some barbers doing coloring, starting doing coloring now.
What would you say was the biggest challenge you had with Booksy from all these years, and how did you solve it? Like the biggest problem you had, and how you solve it?
Wow. Every time, I have a problem, I think it's the biggest one. And then, as soon as I solve it, there is like another one that is even bigger. I think going through COVID was the biggest one. As Tico said, like it was a crisis situation. Like, barbershops and hair salons were closed for a few weeks at least, in some parts of the country, like California, for 9 months. In some countries like the UK or Poland or Spain, we had multiple lockdowns, like lasting 2-3 months each. So in some of those markets, like we lost a lot of clients. We had to lay off half of our team. So that was devastating, and that was definitely like the hardest thing that happened.
But these people that, let's say your clients, during the lockdown, they stopped paying. They canceled their subscriptions. Did they come back when their business was reopened?
Most of them came back, but a lot of them went out of business. So
Ooh.
those that went out of business, they never came back.
Wow.
Like a lot of people, like, because they couldn't make money as barbers, they started doing food delivery, or they went to work for Amazon, or maybe they started doing something else. And then once the lockdowns were lifted, I think they didn't want to go to barbering, or they didn't want to go to like working for hotels and restaurants, because like those were hit the most. And they were afraid that even if it's good now, but if there is another wave of lockdowns, then they would be out of job again. So I think for some people, it was more of a permanent change.
Did you gain a lot of new customers? Because COVID speed the process of people that were reluctant in using softwares. They had no option. For instance, let's say Florida. There was a requirement that you had to work by appointment only. So they had no option. Did you gain a lot of new clients with this craziness that COVID brought?
Initially, we did, but then a lot of businesses, as soon as those requirements were lifted, like they went back to the old ways.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They didn't see the benefit that the booking software. Wow.
I think
I'm impressed.
Like, some of them actually never started using it. Like there were a lot of people that like signed up with us because of like requirements, or sometimes they were not even requirements, but like government strongly suggested. But a lot of them kind of worked around, and I think like it was a borderline behavior.
Wow. I would never expect that. I would expect they would see the benefit and keep using it.
I think after the COVID, it changed our minds as a barbers, change our minds and change so much towards the good, for the better, because now barbershops are more clean because of the COVID. Now more barbershops are more organized because of the COVID. What do you say?
In general, I agree with that, but you would still find, the outliers.
Yeah.
Wow. And how many employees do you have right now?
Right now, we have over 1,100 employees.
1,100?
Across 7 or 8 countries.
Wow. And when you had to let some of them go during this crisis that COVID brought to the company, how many did you have before?
So we had 500 before COVID 2 years ago. We scaled down from 500 to 250. And then in the past 18 months, we grew from 250 to 1,100. So
Wow.
it was almost quadrupled.
Wow.
More than quadrupled.
So it's like giving a step back
Yeah.
to actually give 10 steps forward, right?
Yes.
It had to happen.
Yeah. And
Very
it
good.
was challenging on its own because such a fast growth, like recruiting people, training them, onboarding them, making sure they are, good fit culturally, that they feel good at the company. Like it's challenging, and even though from the outside it looks like a huge success and a lot of fun, it's demanding too on its own terms.
Whew, this was a class here today. Like so much to learn from you guys, and actually you are one of my role models that I see. Like how much you put effort into it to help other people and grow. And this was a real class, so I learned so much. If you had one shot to give an advice for especially barbers and barbershops and salon owners, barbershop owners, barbers as an individuals, hairdressers as an individual, one advice that could help them change their minds and help them in some way, in a certain way. One advice.
My one advice would be whatever you're planning to do maybe tomorrow or next week or next month, like do it today. I think a lot of people are just hesitating and dragging, with either making decisions or implementing them for too long, because usually there is no downside. Like usually there is a way to mitigate risk and to do it as a test. But I think most people are afraid of failure, and because of that, they don't want to even try. So that's something I've learned on my way, in the first couple of years, that I started looking at my failures as lessons. So I didn't call them failures anymore. I just called them lessons. Because even if it doesn't work out, I just learned something from that. So the sooner you do it, the sooner you are going to learn or succeed. So in either case, you are always gaining something. You either improve your business or you just learn something that's going to help you to avoid mistakes in the future.
Fear is one of the most things I say that kills dreams. Stefan, this was great chatting here with you today. We have learned so much. Thank you for coming out. Thank you to take this important time that you have. You drove like an hour from Miami to be here with us at the Black Belt Barber Podcast. I just wanted to say that I wish you success and prosperity, and you're always welcome to our shop and to our lives, and I want to connect more with you.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting me. It's been a pleasure, and I learned from you today a lot too, especially on how to run a successful business as a couple. So you're such an inspiration for me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having
that,
me.
man. Thank you.